It's June 28th, 2019. I'm getting ready to leave on a camping trip tomorrow. So I need to get the junk out of the back of the Dodge that's been in here for actually a couple weeks. Been rained on and everything. But I'm not really too concerned about this stuff. So this is the culmination of what ended up happening was I saw a ad for a storage cabinet a while back. I went down to a place in Connecticut, and when I was looking around, I saw an item there that kind of piqued my interest, and they didn't know much about it, but they wanted like, I think $50 for it, and I was like, I don't even know what the heck I'm going to do with it, so I passed on it at that time. And then I happened to be going through, this was a couple months ago at least, I happened to be going through Facebook Marketplace, and I came across a listing that said, I think it just said metal lot. So it showed a couple of pallets with a bunch of junk on them, and I happened to spot this, which we'll get to in a moment, and realized, hey, that's that thing I saw. So the people obviously had no luck in selling it to anybody else, and decided they were going to put it on the junk pile with a bunch of other stuff. So the deal was, I go down there, and for $40 I got all of this stuff. And I really only wanted that, but I took everything because most of it's metal. So I knew there was some use for it. So we'll just take a real quick look. We'll blow through this real quick. A lot of this stuff is going to go right in the scrap metal pile. So this interesting looking contraption is really not that rare at all. This is a ladder bracket. So for those of you who don't know, this is, judging from the size of it and the age, probably for an old wooden ladder. This would hook onto one of the rungs of the ladder, and then this hook here would hook up to the next one up. Depending on what angle the ladder was at when it was up against the house would determine which one of these notches you lock this into, and what you end up with is you end up with a flat surface here that you would put another ladder up, put another one of these brackets up, and put a plank between the two, and now you've got staging in the air. And that's how they did it in the old days. A lot of guys still do that now, only they use fancy aluminum planks and all this stuff that's probably OSHA approved. But in the old days, they did it with that. So that's going to be scrap metal. But I also thought, you know, that's good old steel that would be good for maybe just practicing some arc welding. I was thinking of maybe showing my 14-year-old, letting him take a shot at some welding or maybe some MIG. And, you know, why not just run beads on something like that, or any of the other metal here that I'm going to trash. This interesting little cream puff, this is a makeshift grinder that somebody made. Okay, so what they did was they took a couple of pillow blocks with bearings and an arbor. I like this. This is cool. This is a those of you who don't recognize this, this is a Schedule 80 PVC, looks like maybe 3/4 inch coupler that they used as a spacer. That's high tech there, huh? But what I like is we got a nice 3-sheave aluminum step pulley here. Okay, that looks like a nice older cast one. That pulley's looking pretty crunchy. But the other thing that's really neat about this thing is the motor. Okay, so let me flip this over. Get a load of that motor. That motor is an early sucker. Look at this on the back here. I think this is a grease cap. I think if we unscrew this, if we could unscrew that, I think there would be grease in there, and I think the idea is you put grease in there and screw it on and it pushes the grease in. It's the through bolt design. It's got the integral cast iron housing is integral to the feet, and sometimes these get busted off. This one's got all 4 feet intact. There are people who actually look for these old motors like that. This particular one is trick of the trade there. Look at that, huh? Patented. GE. I can't quite make out any numbers on it. Actually, I just realized I have it upside down. I don't know if that's going to focus or not, but it looks like it's a dual voltage motor here. I see 110 volts and 220 volts, and then it looks like dual, well, of course, the 2 amperage ratings because it draws less current on the higher voltage. But I can't see anything indicating horsepower or that, but it's an old early GE. I'd like to just for giggles see if this motor would even work, but I mean, God, that's some pretty scary situation there with the wiring, and there's a bazillion cracks in the insulation on this. This does not look safe at all. No. Oh, so let's plug it in. Here, Aiden. Come stand over here. You can hold the camera. What do you want to plug it in?
I'll plug it in.
No, I'm just kidding. Dangerous. This is a viewfinder. You use this to see what the camera's looking at. You see anything?
You gotta see your hands.
That don't sound good. That almost sounds like it might be wired for 220. I doubt that lucky though, right? It's probably something else wrong with it. Let's just take the crusty old belt off and see how it runs without any work to do. Oh, it just got better. You hear that? Probably just hasn't been running so long. Right, that feels about, it's been baking in the sun, so that cast body feels about as hot as it did probably before I ran it. All right, this is very interesting to me. I've never seen anything like this before. I don't know what this came off of. It appears to be something that bolted on the side of something, and this hung over the edge. And there appears to be almost like a tooth here that engaged something. And that tooth would swivel into place, I guess, when this handle would be pulled back, and then it could ratchet, lock, and here. But I mean, it could go way down here. It's like if it was just like a brake that engaged something, you'd think it would only go a little ways for that to click in, but something else is going on here. I don't know what this is, but I'll tell you, it's got some heft to it. It's a casting, clearly a casting. And the top here, there's a what looks to be a machine finished hole. Almost looks like a Babbitt bearing in there. So the only identification I could find on this thing was there's a name on here. A-M-I-D-O-N, Amidon. And this almost the remnants of a number right there. I can't quite make it out. I think it says A3. So I don't know what this is, Amidon. So when I first saw this thing, I actually thought it was some sort of a trolley thing because I couldn't see the pulley on the other side. I thought it would go along like an I-beam or something, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, this is actually a bandsaw. A really old bandsaw. This is what's left of the tires. This is the tensioning. This is the drive pulley. You get this nice casting. And I guess there would have been, this looks like the remnants of the trunnion, so there would have been a mechanism here to tilt the table maybe. So that's unfortunate. That's pretty much useless now. But it's an early Sears Roebuck. Really early Sears Roebuck. Figure that's going to go in the scrap pile. You know, one of these new age vintage industrial artists could make a nice lamp out of that, I bet. Oh well. This is just some angle iron, not angle iron, some flat stock, somebody welded up into an angle bracket of some type. Here's a good piece of all thread, we'll salvage that. A couple of good bolts and washers, we'll salvage those. Here's some channel iron, made into some kind of mess of a contraption. Again, good for practicing welding on. And there were several small items there on the pallet. This is a good crowbar. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this crowbar. Got a little bit of rust on it, that's it. But usually these get tossed out because one of those two tangs right there gets broken off by misuse. But that's a nice early crowbar. This is going to be one of the earliest tire pumps I've ever seen. I'm assuming it's for, well, see, I don't know what that was for. Maybe that wasn't for, no, maybe that wasn't for air. That actually looks like that's like a sump pump. Like a hand-powered, like the plastic thing Chief had in his hands in Jaws when the boat was sinking. He was standing up to his ankles in water, and he had that hand pump, and then he just kind of looked at that thing and looked around and threw it away and climbed up the ladder. Because the design would be that when you put this down into the bottom of the bucket or whatever you're trying to siphon out of, these little teeth would let the water get in, and these little ridges here keep you from putting it all the way to the bottom where it would be blocked off. So, interesting. You can pump that handle up and down. Yeah, I don't think it's going to work. I think it's probably the seals in here are bad. Boy, that's going to have some serious age to it. I don't know. Here's a second crowbar. Also not broken. It's a shorter one. Huh. A couple of good crowbars there. That's some more modern steel that was put together for some sort of a contraption. And got a nice piece of all thread on there and a nut. We'll save some of that hardware. This is an interesting piece of steel here. Some sort of a roller off of something. It's probably not hardened, so that can actually become stock for some kind of a project. This is a very early pulley off of some kind of a machine. Keyway on that thing. Might have come off a tractor even. That might even be off of a PTO on a tractor, an early one. And then we got a couple of cast aluminum pulleys that are in good shape. They're not bent or broken. And last of the small items here is we have a split and maul head. I do not see any markings on it, so I couldn't tell you who makes it. Then there was this big pipe. You can see it's welded up. It's really heavy gauge. I don't know what that is for. Almost looks like a top to a smokestack. I don't know. But then somebody's got a handle on here, almost like so they could pull it off. Maybe to clean the flue. That's heavy gauge though, so again, just if you want to practice running beads, there's plenty of surface on there to do that. So here's the thing that caught my interest when I was there months ago and now is going out for junk. It's got this chuck on it. It's a Rohm, R-O-H-M chuck, which I believe is a German manufacturer, but it's not a really high-end one. The spindle's free, seems to move fine. There's no bed to speak of. There's this rod that comes out. My thinking was you could use this as some sort of a cutoff, almost like a cutoff saw for round stock. You know, put your stock in here and have almost like a hacksaw that would pivot on this and come down. So, kind of like a backwards chop saw. So that was my thinking. You could do that with it, or I don't know. But I'm curious what it was originally. It does have a manufacturer's name on it. It says Officine Mechaniche. Something Bonetti and CSNC Machine per Bottoni. And then there's some phone numbers in there that look like they're for European company. Oh, yeah, here it is, Italy. So, and then number of the machine, an AF033-77. So I'd love to turn it on just to see how fast it rotates that chuck, but unfortunately it appears to be 3-phase. So, I don't know. There is a lever here. Not sure what that lever does. That may maybe engage or disengage the drive. If nothing else, there's a decent looking drum switch here, which is a Cutler hammer. So this is a decent drum switch. So I don't know, the chuck and the drum switch might be worth a few bucks maybe, and then there's a 3-phase motor in there, which probably isn't much horsepower. Alright, so I just wanted to show you guys this pile of junk. Maybe this will make an appearance at some point as a project, we'll see. Alright, so we're going to take some of this stuff and go throw it in the scrap pile for now. If we decide we want to practice welding on it, we can always just pull it back out of the pile. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please take time to hit the like button if you liked it, and if you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing. You never know what I might get into next.